Today I want to talk to you guys about the necessity for micronutrients in the gardening, and I'm going to show you 3 examples of my garden that had extra supplements added to the soil, where the soil was amended and where it was kind of amended and where it wasn't hardly amended at all. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. This is my July garden, and I want to show you guys what the garden is doing right now, where it's doing really bad. We'll start with that. Where it's doing okay, and where it's doing really well, in my opinion. Let's take a look. In this section of my garden, I laid some black plastic down, covering it with wood shavings to kind of protect the plastic from the destructive rays of the sun so that it doesn't break down too much. It's a form of mulch to keep weeds from growing, and I've been quite successful at keeping the weeds at bay, except the weeds will find a little spot to take root in. And yeah, they'll take root, so I've got to keep ahead of the weeds. As you see here where the 2 layers separated, and I've got weeds growing in there. I just have to get back here and start weeding. But the weeds is not what I'm talking about. It's the nutrients, the micronutrients in the soil. This has been soil where I've been planting my garden for, well, since we purchased Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. And I have fortified the soil over the years with material I cleaned out from the chicken coop. This is prior to me getting rabbits. I also put some stuff from the barn out here, and crops did okay. I had one okay crop of corn back here 1 year and 1 year only. Haven't had good luck since. Tried other crops back here. They just don't do well back in this part of the garden. So there's not a whole lot of micronutrients in the ground, as you could see. Now take note of these squash plants. I've got pumpkin, yellow squash, and zucchini growing out here. They are stunted. They are not doing well at all. So this part of the garden simply is not working for me. And that's partly because my soil, the layer of soil here, is only about this deep. It's not deep at all. And so there's not a whole lot of room for deep nutrients getting into the soil. I can supplement the soil and get something to grow maybe part of the year, but I think that next year I'm going to go ahead through the fall and in winter months develop this area with a different style of raised beds to add more organic material, to get a deeper bed of organic material. And I'm going to try to dig that out and set it right down on, because I got a hard pan rock surface there. Get it down right onto the hard pan works surface. That way the raised beds go right down on solid bedrock, and then rodents can't get in underneath. Yeah, I have a problem with rodents in the garden, but I've managed to figure out a way to keep them out. Look at those videos and my scarecrow collection, my epic scarecrow collection. The same holds true for this section of my garden, where I have tried to put these mini raised beds in and grown my melons. My melons are seriously stunted, and they're just, this section of the garden I'm going to consider a total fail. Did the same with the other side, as putting the visqueen down, the plastic, and the wood shavings to cover the plastic, in hopes of also retaining moisture in the soil. But again, my soil is only this deep, not deep at all. And I fortified that little patch of soil with some chicken manure and rabbit turds that I harvested when I cleaned the rabbit tree. Yes, I save all my rabbit turds in the feed sack. And by the way, I could sell those feed sacks for $15 a bag. It's the 50-pound bags of rabbit feed that I buy for the rabbits. I fill that up and sell it, turn around and sell the rabbit turds for 15 bucks. Anyway, I'm going to show you the effects of rabbit turds on the other garden. just wait for it. So as you can see right here, the watermelon, it just it isn't doing good at all. This whole section of the garden. So like the other side, I'm gonna do the same thing with this side as I have planned with the other side, and build bigger raised beds, sinking them right down to the hard pan surface so rodents can't get in and get up from underneath. And hopefully this will help next year's garden. I'm going to be working on that into the fall, and give me something to do in the spring, winter, because I managed to eliminate a bulk of the weed problem, and that was time consuming to get the garden ready for planting. But now with the greenhouse, to start plants earlier, and the lack of having to weed the garden and get it prepped, I can get more done in a shorter period of time. So this whole part of the garden, the whole back part of the garden, I would say 50% of my garden, is really embarrassing. It's, it's failed. I tried something, it doesn't work. And like I say, I demonstrate my triumphs and my failures. And this is a failure to show you guys and teach you guys what not to do. So I do have the flow hive back here. I'll be harvesting some honey here in the next couple of days. I'm concerned about the hive right now because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of activity on the entrance to the hive. So I'm really concerned about the hive's health. I may have to do some splitting and some trading with other hives, and grabbing some frames from another hive that has some brood and egg in it and some food, and get that over here to get this hive boosted up and get it ready for the winter months, because I want a nice strong hive to help the bees over winter. Now I want to bring you guys into the section of the garden that got implemented, fortified with some manure. Not a whole lot. It just got some manure dumped in here because frankly I ran out because you only clean so much throughout the year and you only have so much to put in here. But I do have a pile of manure back there to add to the soil. Once I get all this harvested, then I'll let it set in the soil throughout the fall and winter, and it'll be there and broken down and ready to feed the plants with all of its micronutrients it has left in there in here. Also, I have the worm bin in the greenhouse where I can be adding the worm castings and the worm tea, and I'll be adding some worms to each raised bed as well. And hopefully the garden will just kaboom! So these two beds right here, this is what I didn't do too much with, but I did augment. So some plants are doing fantastic, other plants are struggling. I've got onions here, I've got peppers there, I've got turnips here, and Swiss chard. Swiss chard is doing great, but the cucumbers in this garden are struggling. Don't understand, they're struggling. Cucumber. My spinach is dying off, but the kale, after being ate by a deer that broke into the garden, is coming back. The kale is making a fantastic comeback here. Now I want to show you 4 raised beds, the part of my garden which I'm very proud of. I'm very pleased to see how all of this turned out. This is the section that I really fortified heavily with both chicken manure and rabbit turds. Now the evidence is in the sheer size of the plants. See, I'm speechless. The zucchini and the yellow squash are gigantic compared to what I showed you earlier in the first part of my garden. I've already harvested peas. We're going to pull those up, and I'm going to get ready and plant more peas for the next season's harvest. The cucumbers are doing fantastic in these beds also. Tomato plants and all the other plants I've planted in here, beans, they're just growing like they're supposed to because I heavily fortified it with just chicken manure and rabbit manure. And it breaks down and adds the micronutrients so the roots of the plants can tap into those micronutrients and feed the plant to grow. Plus, I keep it watered. I water every other day out here, and the plants love it. Well, the evidence is right here. Look at that. Well, those are the things I did for my garden to try to get it to grow, and in a learning process along the way, as we saw originally from the back part of the garden, kind of so implement it with manure in shallow soil. Bad. It's a fail. The center two beds, okay. Some things grow, some things don't, but they do struggle. The last four beds, fantastic. Heavily fortified with both chicken manure and rabbit manure. Both resources I have available right here on the homestead. Well, I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. We're a frugal homestead tucked high in the Cascade Ranges of the Pacific Northwest. Please stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing, then clicking that bell icon that alerts you to new videos as I do upload them. Give us a thumbs up. Click that share button. Sharing our videos on your social media platforms helps us out a lot. Also, if you'd like, leave a comment or a tip. I really look forward to tips from other homesteaders, farmers, and people who actually do this stuff and have found great success in it. We learn from each other, and we're learning from each other's mistakes, like my mistakes. I'm not afraid to demonstrate them to you and show them to you. I am embarrassed, don't get me wrong, I do embarrass myself because I tried these out. Didn't work, big flop, but it's a learning experience both for me and then my ability to share it with you so you know not to do this. Be safe, always be kind. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye now.